He spent years working late into the night with nothing but hope in his heart, believing one day his father would smile with pride. But when success finally arrived and he stood holding his medal, his father wasn't there to even see it. Yeah, I'm writing this with shaking hands because I need to get this out before I lose my nerve. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that 3 weeks ago, I had everything. A wife who looked at me like I hung the moon. Twin boys who ran to the door screaming "Daddy" every night. A house we'd painted together room by room, arguing over whether the kitchen should be sage green or cream. Tonight I'm sitting in a studio apartment that smells like the previous tenant's cigarettes, and my kids won't even look at me. It started so small. That's the thing that's eating me alive. It wasn't some grand passion or movie moment. It was Rebecca from accounting, staying late to help with the quarterly reports. Just the two of us in the empty office building, ordering Chinese takeout and laughing about our boss's terrible hairpiece. Or funny, she said, touching my arm. Sarah's lucky. I should have pulled away. I should have talked about my wife, shown her pictures of my boys building sandcastles last summer. Instead, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, wanted, appreciated, like I was more than just the guy who fixed the garbage disposal and remembered to buy milk. The next late night she brought. To make the spreadsheets less painful, she laughed. 2 glasses in, she was sitting closer. 3 glasses in, I wasn't thinking about Sarah waiting at home with dinner getting cold. This is just us talking, Rebecca whispered when I hesitated. Nothing wrong with talking, but we both knew it wasn't just talking anymore. The first happened by the copy machine. Glitchy, pathetic. I tasted her cherry lip gloss and felt like I was drowning and flying at the same time. For 30 seconds I forgot about bedtime stories and soccer practice and the way Sarah hummed while folding laundry. I should go, I said, pulling back. Shield, she said, running her finger along my collar. But well, I didn't go. Help me, I didn't go. For 6 weeks I lived a double. Texting Rebecca during my son's baseball games. Deleting messages while Sarah made breakfast. Creating elaborate excuses for why I was working so much overtime, when really I was meeting Rebecca at that hotel on Maple Street where nobody asks questions and everybody pays cash. Sarah noticed, of course she noticed. She always noticed everything. The way I jumped when my phone buzzed. How I started showering the minute I got home. The distant look in my eyes during family movie nights. "Are okay?" she asked one Tuesday while the boys played in the backyard. Seemed somewhere else. I looked at my wife, really looked at her. Still beautiful at 35, laugh lines around her eyes from all our inside jokes, flour in her hair from making the boys' favorite cookies. She was wearing the old college t-shirt I'd given her 10 years ago, faded and soft from 1,000 washes. Just work stress. I lied and watched something flicker in her eyes. Trust, maybe, starting to. We could go away this weekend, she offered, just us. Mom could watch the boys. Can't. Big presentation Monday. Another lie. Rebecca and I had plans for the weekend. A bed and breakfast 2 towns over. She'd show me pictures online, making plans like we had a future. Like my reel was just some inconvenient detail we'd figure out later. The end came on a Thursday. I was supposed to be at a client dinner. But really I was with Rebecca at her apartment. We were making dinner together, something domestic and couple. Like that made me feel sick even as I played along. My phone rang. Sarah's ringtone. Answer it. Rebecca said, kissing my neck. But something in my gut told me to pick. Maybe it was the way Sarah's voice cracked when she said my name. Maybe it was the sound of sirens in the background. There's been an accident, she sobbed. Tommy fell off his bike. We're at the hospital. Please come. Please, I need. The world stopped. My 6-year-old boy, my Tommy with his gap-toothed grin and dinosaur obsessions was. And I was 40 minutes away, pretending to be someone I wasn't, with a woman who wasn't my family. I have to go. I told Rebecca, already grabbing my keys. But we just opened she protested. I stared at her. My child was bleeding in an emergency room, my wife was she was worried about. This is my son, I said. I thought I was important too, she said, and in that moment, I saw her clearly. Selfish, demanding, nothing like the fantasy I'd built in my head. I ran every red light getting to the hospital. Found Sarah in the waiting room, mascara streaked down her cheeks, still wearing her yoga clothes because she'd been at the park when it happened. She looked when I arrived and the relief in her eyes nearly broke me. Where were, she whispered. I kept calling the restaurant but they said weren't there. Tommy was fine. 15 stitches and a concussion but fine. He held my hand in the hospital bed and asked why mommy was crying. I told him mommy was just worried, but she was still staring at me with questions in her eyes. That night, after Tommy was asleep, Sarah confronted me in our kitchen. The same kitchen where we'd had our first as newlyweds, where I'd proposed for the second time after she lost her ring, where we'd celebrated every day and holiday for 8 years. The restaurant said never had a reservation, she said quietly. I could have kept lying, made some story about a change of plans, a different restaurant, a confused hostess. But looking at my wife, at the woman who'd given me the best years of her, who'd trusted me completely until I gave her reasons not to, I couldn't do it anymore. I've been seeing someone, I said. 4 words, 4 simple words that detonated our entire. Sarah's face went through a dozen emotions in 5 seconds. Confusion, disbelief, understanding, and then something I'd never seen before. Rage mixed with devastating heartbreak. How long? She whispered. 6 weeks. While I was home with our children. Yes. While I was planning our anniversary dinner. Yes. While I was telling everyone what a good man I married. I had no answer for that one. She didn't scream. She didn't throw dishes or slam doors. She just looked at me as a stranger who'd broken into her house and stolen everything valuable. Get out, she said. Sarah, we can talk about this. We can work through. Jit oat, she screamed, and I heard Tommy start crying upstairs. I packed a bag while she comforted our son. Told him daddy had to travel for work, that I'd see him soon. Tommy wrapped his little arms around my neck and I nearly broke right there. Take care of mommy while I'm gone, okay buddy? Okay daddy. Will bring me a present, sure. I lied, knowing I wouldn't be go anywhere or bringing back anything ever again. That was 3 weeks ago. Sarah's filed for divorce. She's asked for full custody, which she'll get because what judge is going to side with the cheating father? My boys don't understand why I can't come home, why mommy cries when she thinks they're not looking, why their whole world got turned upside down. I tried calling Rebecca that first week, thinking maybe we could figure things out, make something real from the wreckage. She didn't answer. Found out later she'd already moved on, started seeing someone else from the office. Turns out I was just her latest project, her married man phase before she got serious about someone available. So here I am. Alone in this apartment, eating cereal for dinner and listening to my upstairs neighbor's TV too loud. I've lost my wife, my kids, my house, my self-respect and half my friends who've chosen sides. The worst part isn't the loneliness though, that's eating me alive. It's not the lawyers or the money or having to tell my parents what I did. The worst part is knowing that I weigh everything good in my for something that was never real to begin with. Tomorrow I see the boys for the first time since that hospital night. 2 hours of supervised visitation at some community center, like I'm a dangerous stranger instead of their father. Sarah will drop them off and leave, and I'll have to explain to 2 6-year-olds why their family doesn't exist anymore. I keep thinking about that moment by the copy machine. That felt so thrilling and important. 30 seconds of stolen pleasure that cost me everything I'd spent 8 years building. If I could go back, if I could grab by the shoulders and shake some sense into my selfish brain. But I can't. That's the thing about consequences. They don't care if we're sorry. 2 weeks since my last post and I thought I'd hit rock bottom. Turns out there are basements in the supervised visits are 2 hours every Saturday at the Sunshine Community Center, which sounds cheerful until sitting in a room that smells like industrial cleaner, while kids play with broken toys and pretend everything's normal. Tommy keeps asking when he can come to my new house. I can't tell a 6-year-old that daddy lives in a place where the heat doesn't work and the neighbors until 3 a.m. So I lie and say soon, knowing his mother will never let that happen. Marcus, my other boy, is different now. Quieter. He used to chatter nonstop about everything, but now he just watches me like he's studying a puzzle he can't solve. Last Saturday he asked me point blank, did stop loving mommy. How to explain to child that love and betrayal can exist in the same heart, that can love someone completely and still destroy them. I made mistakes, I told him, big ones can't fix them. No, buddy, some things can't be fixed. He nodded like he understood, which broke me more than if he'd cried. Sarah looks like a ghost now. She's lost weight, and there are dark circles under her eyes that makeup can't hide. She drops the boys off without looking at me, speaks only when necessary. Last week I tried to apologize again. I'm sorry, I said as she buckled Tommy into his car seat after our visit. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need to know. She me off. Don't dare try to make feel better by apologizing to me. She was right, of course. The apology was more for me than for her. Even in trying to make amends I was still being selfish. Work is a nightmare, everyone knows. Rebecca quit 2 weeks after everything imploded, but not before she told 3 people in the office about our relationship. Now I'm the guy who away his family for a fling. Colleagues who used to grab lunch with me avoid eye contact in the hallway. My boss called me in last Friday. We need to talk, he said, closing his office door. Performance has been slipping. He wasn't wrong. I can barely focus on anything. Numbers swim on spreadsheets. I've missed 3 meetings this month, showing to empty conference rooms because I forgot they'd been rescheduled. I know we're going through a difficult time, he continued. But this is affecting work, and that affects the team. I understand, I said, because what else could I say? Take a leave of absence, he suggested. Head together. We'll hold position for 60 days. 60 days to fix 8 years of damage. 60 days to become someone my children can respect again. The worst part is the isolation. I used to have couple friends, people Sarah and I would have over for barbecues and game nights. Now their invitations have dried. Nobody wants the cheating husband around their happy marriages, like infidelity might be contagious. My brother Jake called last week. We hadn't talked since I told my family what happened. Mom cried on the phone for 20 minutes. Dad just said he was disappointed and hung. Need help, Jake said without preamble. I need my family back. That's not happening and know it. Sarah's done. She should be done. What did was unforgivable. Hearing it from my own brother hit different than hearing it from strangers online. This was someone who'd known me since I was Tommy's age, who remembered when I was decent. I know, I whispered, because keep talking like this is something can fix with enough apologies and good behavior. Nuked kids' lives. Sarah's, this isn't a mistake, it's a choice made over and over for 6 weeks. Every word was a punch to the gut because every word was true. So what am I supposed to do? I asked. Figure out how to live with what done. Get therapy. Stop making this about. Those boys are going to need their father to be better than the man who destroyed their family. I started seeing Dr. Martinez 3 days later. She's in her 50s, has kind eyes and a way of asking questions that make wanna crawl under chair. Why did cheat? She asked in our first session. I gave her all the surface of work stress, feeling unappreciated, marriage getting routine. She listened without judgment, taking notes. Those are circumstances, she said finally, not reasons. Lots of people experience those things without betraying their families. So I'll ask again, why did cheat? I sat there for 10 minutes in silence, which she seemed perfectly comfortable with. Because I could, I finally admitted. Because Rebecca made me feel important, and I liked it more than I liked being faithful. And now I realize feeling important for 5 minutes wasn't worth losing everything that actually was important. She nodded. That's a start. But therapy doesn't fix the practical reality of my falling apart. The divorce papers came last week. Sarah's not asking for alimony, just the house, primary custody, and child support that'll leave me eating ramen until the boys turn 18. Her lawyer is a shark in a suit who looks at me like I'm something stuck to his shoe. My lawyer, a tired-looking woman named Janet, was brutally honest. Wife is everything, she said, spreading papers across her desk. We're caught cheating. There's no dispute about fault. She's been a stay-at-home mother for 6 years, so the judge will want to maintain stability for the children. The best we can hope for is reasonable visitation rights. What's reasonable? Every other weekend, maybe 1 weeknight dinner. 4 days a month with my boys. 4 days to try to be the father they deserve while they live full-time with the mother I broke. The loneliness is suffocating. I wake at 3 a.m. in this studio apartment and remember what it felt like to have Sarah's warmth next to me, to hear the boys giggling in their room down the hall. I remember Saturday mornings making pancakes while Sarah read the newspaper aloud, all of us still in pajamas like we had all the time in the world. Now I make instant coffee in a kitchenette that's smaller than our old pantry and listen to sirens outside my window. I drove by the house yesterday. Couldn't help. Sarah was in the front yard with the boys, helping them rake leaves into a pile. Tommy jumped in while Marcus carefully sorted leaves by size, the way he's done since he was 3. Sarah laughed at something Tommy said, and for a second she looked like the woman I fell in love with in college. Then she saw my car. The smile died on her face. She quickly gathered the boys and went inside, locking the door behind them like I was a. I sat in that car for an hour, staring at the house we'd bought together, that I'd burned down. The Halloween decorations Sarah put alone. The flower bed she planted while I was with Rebecca, thinking I was working late to provide for our family. A neighbor I used to chat with at block parties walked by walking her dog. She saw me and quickly crossed the street. That's when it hit me. I'm not just losing my family, I'm losing my entire identity. I was Sarah's husband, the boy's father, the guy who coached Little League and fixed neighbors' computers. Now I'm the cautionary tale other husbands tell themselves won't happen to them. The affair wasn't just a betrayal of Sarah. It was a betrayal of the man I thought I was. The man who promised to love and honor her, who held his newborn sons and swore to protect them from everything. Including apparently their own father. I keep replaying that first night with Rebecca, trying to understand what I was thinking. But that's the thing, I wasn't thinking. I was feeling desired, feeling free from responsibility, feeling like I deserved something just for me after years of putting family first. What a joke, putting family first. If I'd really done that, I'd never have been alone with Rebecca in the first place. I'd have come home to my wife instead of staying late to flirt with someone who saw me as entertainment. Dr. Martinez says I need to forgive before I can move forward. But how to forgive something unforgivable? How to live with being the villain in children's story? Tonight I'm supposed to video call with the boys before bedtime. Sarah reluctantly agreed to it after my lawyer pushed. 15 minutes of pixelated conversation where I pretend I'm doing great and they pretend they don't miss me. Marcus will show me his latest drawing. Tommy will tell me about school, and I'll smile and encourage them and tell them Daddy loves them, while sitting in this apartment that represents everything I away. The hardest part is knowing they're better off without me. Sarah is an amazing mother, patient and loving and strong enough to hold their world together after I shattered it. The boys are resilient, they'll be okay. But they'll never trust the same way again. They'll grow knowing that even people who promise to love forever can disappear when something shinier catches their eye. That's the real crime here. Not just breaking a marriage but teaching 2 innocent kids that love comes with conditions. I used to think the worst thing that could happen would be losing my family. Turns out the worst thing is deserving to lose them. 6 months since my first post, the divorce is final. The supervised visits are over, replaced by court-ordered every other weekend custody that feels like visiting my children in someone else's. I'm writing this because I need other people to understand what rock bottom actually looks like when thrown away everything that matters. The boys barely know me anymore. Tommy, who used to run to me screaming with excitement, now gives me polite hugs like I'm a distant relative. Marcus has become my translator, explaining Tommy's moods and preferences like I'm a babysitter learning the routine. Tommy doesn't like the crusts on his sandwiches anymore. Marcus told me matter-of-factly last weekend. And he needs his blue blanket to sleep, but Mom forgot to pack it. I used to know these things. I used to be the one who the crusts off, who knew which blanket was which. Now I'm learning my own children through progress reports from their 7-year-old brother. The apartment I moved to after the studio is better but still hollow. 2 bedrooms so the boys can stay over, furnished with the cheapest everything from discount stores. Tommy's room has superhero sheets that don't match the dinosaur comforter. Marcus's room is too bright because I bought the wrong blinds and haven't gotten around to replacing them. It's not home. It's a place where their father lives. Sarah remarried last month. His name is David. He's a teacher at the boys' school, and by every account he's everything I should have been. Patient, present, faithful. The boys call him Dave, and light when they talk about him. Dave taught me how to throw a slider. Tommy announced during our last visit, tossing a baseball and down. That's great, buddy, I said, swallowing the jealousy like broken glass. He's really good at baseball, Marcus added. He played in college. I taught them to throw. I spent hours in our backyard showing them how to grip the ball, how to follow through. But Dave is the one helping them now. The one at their games, the one they remember teaching them everything that matters. The wedding was small, just family, but I heard about it anyway. Small town people talk. Sarah wore yellow, not white. The boys were ring bearers, walking down the aisle in little suits, proud to be part of their mother's new beginning. I spent that weekend in a bar, which has become too common lately. Not just nursing beers and watching sports I don't care about, surrounded by strangers who don't know I'm the guy who destroyed the best thing he ever had. Martinez says I'm making progress. 6 months of therapy has taught me to recognize the selfishness that led to my choices, the entitlement that made me think I deserved something more than the love I already had. Or different than when started. She said in our last session, more honest with Pipe, does that matter if it's too late to matter to anyone else? It matters to children. They need a father who understands what he did wrong, not one who's still making excuses. She's right, but understanding and fixing are different things. I understand that I broke my family for a fantasy. I understand that Rebecca never loved me, just enjoyed the thrill of stealing someone else's husband. I understand that every choice I made put my own immediate gratification above the people who trusted me most. Understanding doesn't bring back what I lost. Work picked after my leave of absence, partly because I throw into it now. It's easier to focus on spreadsheets and presentations than on the fact that my children are building a that doesn't include me except for court-mandated weekends. My colleagues treat me professionally but distantly. I'm competent but contaminated. Safe to work with but not to trust. The Christmas party was awkward, everyone talking around the elephant of my very public implosion. I left early and drove past my old house. Now Sarah and David's house. They'd put Christmas lights, the expensive kind that blink in patterns. Through the window I could see the boys decorating a tree, David lifting Tommy to put the star on top while Sarah applauded. It was perfect. A perfect family Christmas scene, rebuilt from the wreckage of what I destroyed. I sat in that car and cried like I hadn't since the day I packed my first bag. Not for but for them. They were happy. Genuinely happy. The boys were laughing, Sarah was smiling, and none of them were thinking about me at all. That's when I realized the truly devastating truth: they're better without me. Not just different, not just adapted, actually better. Sarah doesn't have to wonder where I am or who I'm with. She doesn't have to pretend my lies make sense or question her own instincts. She gets to trust completely again, something I stole from her and Dave gave back. The boys have a father figure who shows consistently, who doesn't carry the weight of betrayal, who they can admire without reservation. Dave will never be the man who taught them that promises can be broken, that people love can disappear when something more interesting comes along. My parents visited last month, first time since everything happened. Mom tried to be supportive, but I could see the disappointment she was trying to hide. Dad was more direct. I don't understand how could throw away what had. He said while we sat on my apartment balcony, drinking coffee and watching traffic. I don't either, I admitted. Those boys needed their father. They have one now. Dad looked at me for a long moment. David seems like a good man. He is. Better than where. It wasn't meant to be cruel, just factual. And he was right. The custody arrangement feels more like visiting than parenting. Every other Friday I pick my children from their thriving inn and bring them to a place that exists only because I destroyed their real home. We do activities, go to movies, eat meals together, but there's an artificiality to it all. I'm no longer their father in any meaningful sense. I'm their biological parent who gets supervised access to their childhood. The man raising them, teaching them, comforting them when they're scared, celebrating their victories and helping them through defeats is David. Last weekend, Tommy skinned his knee at the playground. Instead of running to me for comfort, he asked when we were going home so Mom and Dave could put a bandage on it. His instinctive need for comfort no longer includes me. That night, as I tucked them into their temporary beds in their father's temporary apartment, Marcus asked a question that haunts me. Dad, why did leave us? I've spent months in therapy preparing for this conversation, but no amount of preparation makes it easier. I made bad choices, I said carefully. Mom, and that too. But why? Weren't we good enough? The question hit like a physical. These children, these perfect innocent children, think they weren't enough to keep their father home. We're everything, I whispered, kneeling by his bed. And Tommy and Mom were everything good in my. I left because something was wrong with me, not pipe, air fixed now. I'm trying to be better. But some things I broke can't be fixed. He nodded solemnly, too wise for 7 years old. Like when I broke Mom's favorite vase. Yes, buddy. Like that. The next morning I returned them to their real, the one where their mother is married to a man who deserves her, where they're growing secure and loved and whole. David answered the door, friendly and professional, treating me like a necessary but unfortunate part of their routine. How was weekend? He asked the boys. Good, Marcus said. Dad took us to the science museum. That sounds fun. Did see the new dinosaur exhibit. As they chattered about their weekend, I realized I'd become a field trip. An educational experience they have twice a month before returning to their actual. I drove away knowing that my children are safe, loved, and happy. Knowing that Sarah found someone worthy of her trust. Knowing that the family I destroyed has been rebuilt better than before. And knowing that the price of 6 weeks of selfish pleasure was everything that ever mattered. Tonight I'm alone in this apartment that will never be home, eating Chinese takeout and watching other people's lives on television. Tomorrow I'll go to work and be professionally competent while personally hollow. Next weekend I'll pick my children and pretend that weekend custody feels like fatherhood. I keep thinking about that moment at the copy machine. That felt so thrilling and important. 30 seconds that seemed worth everything at the time. Now I know what everything actually costs. Rebecca texts me occasionally, usually late at night when she's had too much and wants to reminisce about our connection. She's engaged now, to someone who doesn't know about her history with married men. I delete her messages without responding. That chapter of my is too expensive to revisit. Dr. Martinez asked me last week what I'd tell my younger self if I could go back to that first moment of temptation. I'd tell him that the woman he loves, the children he adores, that he's built, are worth more than any momentary thrill, I said. And do you think he'd listen? I was quiet for a long time. No, I think he'd think he could have both. I think he'd tell himself he deserved both. And now I know that thinking deserve everything is how lose everything. The worst part isn't the loneliness, though that's eating me alive. It's not the financial stress or the professional shame or the family disappointment. The worst part is knowing that somewhere in this city, my children are being tucked into bed by a man who loves their mother the way she deserves to be loved, who will never make them question whether they're enough, who will never teach them that promises are negotiable. The worst part is knowing they're better off, and that being better off required losing me completely. If we're reading this and thinking about making the same choices I made, if we're justifying that first coffee date or that innocent text exchange or that harmless lunch with someone who isn't spouse, remember this: we're not just risking marriage, or risking becoming the cautionary tale children will tell their therapists someday, or risking becoming the reason spouse learns to love someone else, or risking discovering that the price of everything one is everything already have.